The orc woman named Vera Grimfoot stood in the center of her clan's gathering circle with her arms crossed and her jaw set, watching her mother parade a line of suitors past her like prized livestock at a fair. And she had never felt less interested in anything in her entire 23 years of life. "This is Throck," her mother announced, gesturing to a tall orc man with elaborate braids and a chest like a barrel. "He has 10 head of cattle and a forge." Vera nodded politely. Throck flexed. "And this is Garak, finest hunter in 3 valleys." Garak held up a string of rabbits as evidence. Vera suppressed a sigh. Her mother continued down the line. There were 7 candidates in total, all respectable orc men from neighboring clans, all chosen with care by the clan elders. All completely wrong. The gathering had drawn nearly the entire Grimfoot clan to the homestead Vera had inherited from her late father. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and elders sat on benches arranged in a half-circle, waiting for her to make a selection. The autumn sun hung low over the fields, casting long shadows across the yard. Vera let her gaze drift past the suitors, past the assembled clan, to the small cottage that stood at the edge of the property. More specifically, to the roof of that cottage, where a human man was crouched near the peak, his hammer raised to drive another nail into a fresh cedar shingle. She had been watching him for 3 weeks now. Every morning he arrived just after dawn, tools slung over his shoulder. Every evening he climbed down, checked his work, and left with a quiet nod. He never stared at her tusks, never called her savage, never treated her like anything other than a client who had hired him to do a job, and he was very, very good at his job. "Vera," her mother said sharply. "Are you listening?" Vera turned back to the line of suitors. "I heard you." "Then which will you choose?" The elders leaned forward. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment when Vera would finally settle down and produce heirs and stop living alone on this isolated homestead like some kind of hermit. Vera took a deep breath. "None of them," she said clearly. A ripple of shock went through the gathered clan. Her mother's face darkened. "Vera, you must choose. You are of age. Your father's land needs. I pick my own husband," Vera interrupted. The words rang out across the yard. Several elders stood up. The suitors looked at each other in confusion. "What?" her mother sputtered. Vera turned and pointed directly at the man on her roof. "Him." Every head swiveled. The human man, who had been in the process of hammering, froze mid-swing. His eyes went wide. The hammer slipped from his fingers and clattered down the slope of the roof, bounced off the gutter, and landed in the dirt below with a thud that seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then everyone started talking at once. "A human," one elder shouted. "Have you lost your mind?" another cried. "Absolutely not," her mother said flatly. Vera kept her eyes on the man on the roof. He was staring back at her with an expression of pure panic, his face pale beneath the dust and sweat of his work. She watched him swallow hard, glance at the crowd below, then look back at her as if hoping he had misunderstood. She had not misunderstood. Neither had he. "His name is Marcus Brennan," Vera said, raising her voice to be heard over the commotion. "He is a roofer, a good one. He has been repairing my storm damage for 3 weeks, and I choose him." Her mother stepped in front of her, blocking her view. "Vera, this is unacceptable. You cannot simply point at a random human, and he is not random," Vera said. "I have made my choice. The clan will never accept this. The clan does not have to live with him. I do." Her mother opened her mouth, closed it, then turned to the elders. Tell her this is madness." The eldest of the elders, a woman named Greta with silver-streaked hair and a face like weathered stone, raised one hand for silence. The crowd quieted. "Vera Grimfoot," Greta said slowly, You understand what you are proposing, I do. A human husband in an orc clan. Yes, Greta looked at the man on the roof who was still frozen in place. Does he know he has been chosen? Not until 30 seconds ago, Vera admitted. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Greta's mouth twitched, though whether in amusement or disapproval, Vera could not tell. This is your final word, Greta asked. It is. Greta nodded slowly. Then by clan law he must prove himself worthy. If he cannot, you will choose again from acceptable candidates. Vera's heart sank a little, but she had expected this. What must he do? Complete the roof, Greta said. By the first frost, and demonstrate that he can provide for you, protect you, and earn the respect of this clan. That is fair, Vera said. If he fails, you will choose another. He will not fail. Greta turned her gaze to the roof. You, human, come down. Marcus Brennan climbed down the ladder with the careful movements of a man who was very aware that an entire clan of orcs was watching him. When he reached the ground, he brushed the dust from his hands and walked slowly toward the gathering circle. Vera noticed that he did not look afraid exactly. Wary, yes, confused, certainly, but not afraid. He stopped a respectful distance from the elders and gave a small bow. Elder. You heard what was said, Greta asked. I did. And what say you? Marcus looked at Vera. She met his eyes, trying to convey some kind of reassurance, though she was not sure what to reassure him about. She had just announced to her entire clan that she wanted to marry a man she had barely spoken to. I say, Marcus began carefully, that I am honored and surprised, and that I would like to hear more about what this means before I agree to anything. A wise answer. Vera felt a flicker of relief. Greta nodded. You may speak with Vera in private. The clan will reconvene at sunset for your answer. With that, Greta turned and walked away, and the rest of the clan slowly dispersed, though not without plenty of whispering and backward glances. The rejected suitors filed off, looking variously offended, relieved, or amused. Vera's mother shot her a look of pure fury before stalking toward the main house. And then it was just Vera and Marcus, standing in the yard as the sun sank lower and the shadows lengthened. Marcus cleared his throat. So, he said, that was unexpected. Vera felt her face heat. I apologize for not warning you. Apologies are nice, Marcus said. Explanations would be better. Fair enough. Vera gestured toward the cottage. Walk with me. They walked in silence for a moment, the dry grass crunching under their feet. Vera was intensely aware of his presence beside her, the way he moved with a kind of easy competence, the smell of wood smoke and cedar that clung to him. My mother has been trying to marry me off for 2 years, Vera said finally. I have refused every match she has suggested. Today, she decided to take matters into her own hands and invited every eligible bachelor from 3 clans to present themselves. And you decided to choose me instead, Marcus said. Yes. Why? Vera stopped walking and turned to face him. He was not as tall as the orc men had been, but he was tall enough that she only had to tilt her head slightly to meet his eyes. They were brown, she noticed. Warm brown, like the color of the earth after rain. Because you have been coming here every day for 3 weeks, she said. And in all that time, you have never once treated me with anything but respect. You do not stare. You do not make crude jokes. You do not call me savage or monster or any of the other things humans usually call my kind. Marcus frowned. Why would I? You are paying me to fix your roof, not insult you. You would be surprised how many people cannot manage both. He was quiet for a moment. I am sorry you have had to deal with that. It is the way of things, Vera said with a shrug. But with you it was different. You treated me like a person, like an equal. And I found that I looked forward to seeing you each day, to watching you work. To the few words we exchanged when you arrived and left. I looked forward to those moments too, Marcus admitted. You are easy to talk to, and you make good tea. Vera felt a smile tug at her lips. I do make good tea. They started walking again, circling around to the back of the cottage where Marcus had set up his tools and supplies. The damaged section of the roof was half repaired, the new shingles bright against the weathered old ones. I cannot pretend to understand orc customs, Marcus said. But I gather that your elders will not simply accept your choice without question. No, Vera agreed. They have set conditions. You must finish the roof by the first frost, and you must prove that you can provide and protect and earn the clan's respect. Marcus looked up at the roof, his expression thoughtful. The roof I can finish, I am good at my work, the rest. He trailed off. The rest will come, Vera said with more confidence than she felt. Will it? Marcus turned to her. Vera, I am grateful for your respect and your trust. But there are things you do not know about me. Then tell me. He hesitated, and she could see the struggle on his face. I was part of a guild, he said finally. The Carpenters and Roofers Guild in Millbrook, 2 valleys over. I was a journeyman, well on my way to master status. And then there was an accident. Vera waited. We were working on a granary, Marcus continued, his voice careful and controlled. Big project, high roof, steep pitch. I was in charge of the crew. One of the men, a friend of mine named Thomas, was securing a section of the peak. The support beams gave way. He fell. Did he survive? Vera asked quietly. No. The single word hung between them. The guildmaster blamed me, Marcus said. Said I had not checked the beams properly. Said I had rushed the work. The guild voted to expel me. I left town the next day. And did you? Vera asked. Rush the work, fail to check the beams. Marcus was silent for a long moment. I do not know, he said finally. I have gone over it in my mind 1,000 times. I remember checking the beams. I remember them seeming solid. But Thomas is dead and someone must be responsible, and the guild master said it was me and I could not prove otherwise. So you accepted the blame. What else could I do? Marcus looked at her, and there was a deep weariness in his eyes. Thomas had a wife and 2 children. The guild gave them compensation. If I had fought the accusation, the investigation would have dragged on for months. The family would have suffered. So I left. Vera understood what he was saying. He had taken the guilt on himself, whether it was his or not, because it was easier than fighting. Because he had cared more about Thomas's family than his own reputation. It was the action of a good man. And now you wander from town to town, taking work where you can find it, Vera said. Yes, I am skilled enough that people hire me, even without guild papers. But I will never be more than a journeyman now, never have a workshop of my own, never train apprentices. Is that what you wanted? Marcus smiled sadly. Once, not anymore. Now I just want to do good work and not hurt anyone else. Vera reached out and took his hand. He looked down at their joined hands in surprise. You are a good man, Marcus Brennan, she said. Whatever happened in that granary, you did what you thought was right, and you have been doing good work ever since. I see that. I saw it the first day you arrived. Your clan may not see it the same way, Marcus said. If they learn about my past, then we will deal with it, Vera said firmly. Together. He looked at her for a long moment, and she could see him weighing the decision. Finally, he squeezed her hand gently. All right, he said. I will try. I cannot promise I will succeed, but I will try. Relief washed through her. That is all I ask. They walked back to the gathering circle as the sun touched the horizon. The clan had reassembled, waiting. Greta stood in the center, her face impassive. You have an answer? She asked as they approached. Marcus stepped forward. I accept the challenge, he said clearly. I will complete the roof by the first frost, and I will do everything in my power to prove myself worthy of Vera Grimfoot's choice. Greta nodded. Then it is decided. You have until the first frost. We will watch. That night, after the clan had finally dispersed, and her mother had retreated to the main house in angry silence, Vera sat on the porch of the cottage and watched the stars come out. Marcus had left at dusk, as he always did, but he had promised to return at dawn. She wondered what she had started, wondered if she had made a terrible mistake, wondered if Marcus would regret agreeing to this, but when she closed her eyes, she saw him on the roof, hammer in hand, the sun bright on his face. She saw the careful way he measured each shingle, the way he never cut corners, the way he treated her home with respect. No, it was not a mistake. The next morning, Marcus arrived even earlier than usual. He climbed the ladder before the dew had dried and set to work with a focus Vera had not seen before. She brought him tea mid-morning, and he drank it gratefully but did not pause in his work. "You do not have to kill yourself," she called up. "The first frost is still 2 months away." "I know," Marcus called back, "but I want to do this right." 3 days passed. The damaged section of the roof grew steadily smaller as Marcus replaced the shingles with methodical precision. Vera went about her own work, tending her small garden, feeding the chickens, repairing a section of fence that had come loose. But she always knew where Marcus was, could always hear the steady rhythm of his hammer. On the 4th day, her mother appeared. Vera was kneeling in the garden, pulling weeds, when she heard the footsteps. She looked up to see her mother standing at the edge of the plot, arms crossed, face unreadable. "Mother," Vera said carefully. "I spoke with the elders," her mother said without preamble. "They think you have lost your mind. I am sure they do. Vera, this is not a joke. You are throwing away good matches for a human with no prospects, no family, no standing." "He has skill," Vera said, "and integrity. That is enough." Her mother shook her head. "You are young. You do not understand what you are risking. When you tire of him, when he leaves you, when the clan turns on you for this choice, you will have no one to blame but yourself." "I will not tire of him. You barely know him. I know enough." Her mother stared at her for a long moment, and Vera saw something flicker in her eyes. Sadness, perhaps, or fear. "Your father would have fought this," her mother said quietly. "My father would have wanted me to be happy," Vera replied. Her mother said nothing. She turned and walked away, and Vera returned to her weeding, her hands trembling slightly. That evening, Marcus climbed down from the roof and stood surveying his work with a critical eye. Vera brought him a cup of tea and a slice of bread with honey. "How is it progressing?" she asked. "Faster than I expected," Marcus admitted. "The damage was not as extensive as I initially thought. The storm hit hard, but the structure underneath is solid. Your father built well." "He did." Vera looked up at the roof. "He built this cottage the year I was born, said every child should have a home of their own someday. He was a wise man." They sat together on the porch steps, sipping tea in the fading light. The silence between them was comfortable, easy. Vera found herself thinking how strange it was that she felt more at ease with this human than she ever had with the orc suitors her mother had paraded in front of her. "Tell me about your family," Marcus said suddenly. Vera glanced at him. "What do you want to know? Anything. Everything. If I am going to earn your clan's respect, I should understand where you come from." "Fair enough." Vera set down her cup and thought for a moment. "My father was a builder," she said. "He worked with stone and wood both. He built half the houses in our valley. My mother managed the clan's herds and trades. She is fierce and stubborn and does not understand why I would rather live alone than in the main clan house." "Why do you?" "Because I value peace," Vera said. "The main house is always loud, always full of people, always full of expectations. Here I can think, I can breathe." Marcus nodded. "I understand that." "Do you have family?" Vera asked. "A sister," Marcus said. "In Millbrook still, I think." We have not spoken since the accident." "Why not?" "Shame, mostly. I did not want to see the disappointment in her eyes." Vera frowned. "You do not know that she would be disappointed." "I know she loved Thomas," Marcus said quietly. "He was like a brother to her. I took him from her." "An accident took him from her," Vera corrected. "Not you." Marcus did not respond, and Vera did not push. She understood the weight of guilt, the way it could settle into your bones and never quite leave. Her father had died 5 years ago in a construction accident, and she still sometimes wondered if she should have been there, should have done something, should have seen it coming. The days turned into a week, then 2 weeks. The roof progressed steadily, and Marcus became a familiar presence on the homestead. He arrived at dawn, worked through the morning, paused for lunch, worked through the afternoon, and left at dusk. Vera fell into a rhythm of bringing him meals and water, checking on his progress, sometimes just sitting on the porch and watching him work. She noticed things about him. The way he frowned when he was concentrating. The way he always cleaned his tools before putting them away. The way he whistled softly while he worked, old tunes she did not recognize. And she noticed the way he looked at her when he thought she was not watching. There was warmth in his eyes and something that might have been longing. One afternoon, as she was hanging laundry to dry, her cousin Dara appeared. Dara was younger than Vera by 3 years and had always been the sort of person who said exactly what she thought without bothering with diplomacy. "So," Dara said, hopping up to sit on the fence. "You really chose the human." "I really did," Vera agreed, clipping a shirt to the line. "The elders are split. Half think you are brilliant, half think you are insane." "And what do you think?" Dara grinned, showing her small tusks. "I think you are brave, and maybe a little bit insane. But mostly brave." Vera smiled despite herself. "Thank you, I think." Dara glanced up at the roof where Marcus was working on the far edge. "He is handsome for a human, and he does good work. But what if he does not pass the trial? What if the clan rejects him?" "Then I will deal with that when it happens," Vera said. "You would really leave the clan for him?" The question hung in the air. Vera had not let herself think about it directly, but now that Dara had asked, she realized she knew the answer. "Yes," she said. "If it came to that, I would." Dara let out a low whistle. "You really do care about him." "I do." "Does he know?" "I do not think so, not yet." "Are you going to tell him?" Vera pinned the last shirt to the line. "Eventually, when the time is right." Dara hopped down from the fence. "Well, for what it is worth, I hope it works out. You deserve to be happy, Vera. Even if it is with a weird, quiet human who lives on a roof." Vera laughed. "He does not live on the roof." "Could have fooled me." Dara waved and headed off, whistling the same tune Marcus had been humming earlier. Vera wondered if he had taught it to her, or if it was just a coincidence. 3 weeks became 4. The roof was more than half finished now, and the days were growing shorter and cooler. The first frost was still several weeks away, but Vera could feel autumn settling over the valley. The leaves on the trees were beginning to turn gold and red. The mornings had a chill that promised winter ahead. Marcus came down from the roof earlier than usual one evening and stood at the base of the ladder, looking troubled. "What is wrong?" Vera asked, setting aside the harness she had been mending. "I need to go into town tomorrow," Marcus said. "I am running low on nails and need to purchase more, but I do not want to fall behind on the work." "Then go," Vera said. "One day will not make a difference. Are you sure?" "I am sure." "Besides, I need to go into town as well. We can go together." Marcus looked surprised. "You would travel with me." "Why would I not?" "I thought perhaps it would damage your reputation, being seen with a human." Vera snorted. "My reputation is already damaged. I chose you in front of the entire clan. Remember, I think we are past worrying about appearances." The next morning they set out together, Vera driving the small cart pulled by her sturdy pony, Marcus sitting beside her with a list of supplies he needed. The ride into town took an hour, the road winding through golden fields and stands of trees aflame with autumn color. Marcus was quiet for most of the journey, and Vera let him be. She had learned that he was not the sort of man who needed constant conversation. He was comfortable in silence, and so was she. But as they crested a hill and the town came into view, Marcus stirred. "I should warn you," he said. "If we encounter anyone from my old guild, things might be difficult." "Difficult how?" "They may not be kind about me, about my past." Vera glanced at him. "Then we will handle it. Together." The town was a modest place, a collection of wooden buildings clustered around a central square with a market and a well. Vera guided the cart to the market and tied the pony to a post. She had a list of her own supplies to purchase, and they agreed to meet back at the cart in an hour. Vera went about her business, buying flour and salt, and a bolt of fabric she would need for mending winter clothes. The shopkeepers were polite but wary. They knew she was an orc, and they did not quite know what to make of her. But they took her coin and gave her what she needed, and that was enough. She was loading the last of her purchases into the cart when she heard raised voices from the other end of the square. Her stomach sank. She hurried toward the sound and found Marcus standing in front of the blacksmith shop, facing a tall man in a leather apron. The man was red-faced and gesturing angrily, and a small crowd was beginning to gather. "I know you," the man was saying loudly. "You are Marcus Brennan, the one who killed Thomas Miller." Vera felt her hands curl into fists. Marcus said nothing. His face was pale but composed. "You have no right to be here," the man continued. "You were expelled from the guild, stripped of your certification. You should not be working at all." "I work as an independent contractor," Marcus said quietly. "I have broken no laws. You broke the trust of every craftsman in this valley when you let Thomas die." The words struck like a blow. Vera saw Marcus flinch, saw the guilt flash across his face. "That is enough," Vera said, stepping forward. The man turned to her, and his eyes widened slightly at the sight of her green skin and tusks. "And who are you?" "I am Vera Grimfoot. Marcus is working for me, and you will speak to him with respect or you will answer to me." The man sneered. "An orc defending a disgraced roofer. How fitting." "Careful," Vera said softly. "You do not want to test me." Something in her voice must have convinced him because he took a step back, but he was not done. "You should know what you are dealing with," he said, addressing Vera now. "This man was responsible for the death of a good worker. The guild master himself said so. He cannot be trusted." "Then the guild master was wrong," Vera said flatly. "You do not know that. I know Marcus. That is enough." The man shook his head. "You are making a mistake." "That is my business, not yours. Now step aside." For a moment, Vera thought the man would argue further, but he seemed to read something in her expression because he turned and stalked back into the blacksmith shop, muttering under his breath. The crowd dispersed slowly. Vera turned to Marcus, who was staring at the ground. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I am sorry," Marcus said quietly. "I should not have come. I knew this might happen." "You have nothing to apologize for. He called me a killer in front of everyone." "He is a fool," Vera said firmly. "And his opinion means nothing." Marcus looked at her, and there was such pain in his eyes that Vera wanted to reach out and pull him into an embrace. But they were in the middle of the town square, and she did not think he would welcome that. "Let us finish your errands and leave," she said instead. "We do not need to stay here." They collected the nails and other supplies Marcus needed and left town as quickly as they could. The ride back was silent, and this time it was not a comfortable silence. Marcus stared at the road ahead, his jaw tight, his hands clenched in his lap. When they arrived back at the homestead, he helped her unload the cart and then climbed the ladder to the roof without a word. Vera watched him go, helpless. That evening he left without his usual goodbye. Vera stood on the porch and watched him walk down the road until he disappeared from sight, and she felt a cold knot of worry settle in her chest. The next morning, Marcus did not come. Vera waited on the porch, watching the road, but there was no sign of him. Dawn turned to mid-morning, and still he did not appear. She told herself there could be 100 reasons for his absence. He could be ill. He could have other business. He could simply need a day to recover from yesterday's confrontation, but she did not believe any of those reasons. By noon, she could not stand it anymore. She saddled the pony and rode out to the small boarding house where Marcus was staying, a modest place on the edge of the next town over. The landlady answered her knock and looked startled to see an orc woman on her doorstep. "I am looking for Marcus Brennan," Vera said. "He is in his room," the landlady said slowly, "but he said he was not to be disturbed. Tell him Vera is here." The landlady disappeared upstairs. A few minutes later, Marcus appeared at the door. He looked tired, his eyes shadowed. "Vera," he said, "I was going to send you a message." "Were you?" Vera kept her voice even. "I thought it would be better if I withdrew from our arrangement," Marcus said. "What happened yesterday made it clear that my past will follow me wherever I go. I cannot let that reflect on you or your clan." Vera felt anger flare. "So you were just going to disappear, without talking to me first? I thought it would be easier." "Easier for who? For you because you do not have to face me. Or for me because I would just wake up one day and find you gone," Marcus flinched. "Vera, I am trying to do the right thing." "The right thing is to honor your word," Vera said. "You agreed to finish the roof. You agreed to try to earn my clan's respect. One angry blacksmith does not change that." "It is not just him," Marcus said. "It is everyone. Every town I go to, someone recognizes me, someone remembers. I cannot escape what I did." "What you did?" Vera stepped closer. "Marcus, you did not kill Thomas. You were blamed for his death. There is a difference, is there? I was in charge. I should have caught the problem." "And what if there was nothing to catch?" Vera demanded. "What if the guild master was lying? What if he was covering for his own negligence?" Marcus stared at her. "What are you talking about? You said the guild master blamed you. Did anyone investigate? Did anyone check his claim?" "No, I left before exactly," Vera interrupted. "You left. You took the guilt and you ran, but you never fought back. You never asked questions. You just accepted what he said and carried it with you." Marcus looked away. "I could not fight it. Thomas's family needed the compensation. If I had contested the ruling, it would have dragged on for months." "So you sacrificed yourself for them," Vera said. "That is noble, Marcus, but it does not mean you were actually responsible." "I will never know for certain," Marcus said quietly. "Then let us find out." He looked at her in surprise. "How? We go back to Millbrook, we ask questions, we find out what really happened." "Vera, it has been 2 years. The trail is cold. No one will talk to us." "Then we make them talk," Vera said firmly. "You are a good man, Marcus Brennan. I saw that the first day you arrived at my homestead, and I will not let you throw away your future because of a guild master's lies." Marcus shook his head slowly. "You do not understand what you are asking." "I understand perfectly. I am asking you to trust me, to let me help you. To stop carrying this alone." For a long moment Marcus said nothing. Then, slowly, he nodded. "All right," he said. "All right, we will try." They left the next morning, taking the cart west toward Millbrook. It was a 2-day journey, and they spent the first night at an inn halfway between. Vera paid for 2 rooms, and they ate dinner together in the common room, planning their approach. "The guild master's name is Harold Finch," Marcus said. "He has run the guild for 20 years. He is well respected and has connections throughout the region." "Does he have enemies?" Vera asked. Marcus considered. There were a few members who disagreed with his methods. He could be heavy-handed, quick to blame others for problems, but I do not know if anyone would be willing to speak against him. We will find out. The next day they arrived in Millbrook, a larger town than the one near Vera's homestead, with stone buildings and a bustling market square. Marcus directed her to the Guild Hall, a sturdy building near the center of town. "I should go in alone," Marcus said as they pulled up outside. "No," Vera said. "We go together. Vera, if they see you with me, then they see me with you. I am not letting you do this alone, Marcus. We are in this together." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. They entered the Guild Hall side by side. The main room was a large open space with tables and benches, tools hanging on the walls, and a few men gathered near the fireplace. They all turned to stare as Vera and Marcus walked in. "Marcus Brennan," one of them said, standing slowly. "I did not think I would ever see you here again." "I did not think I would be back," Marcus admitted, "but I need to speak with Harold Finch. He is not here." "Then I will wait." The man glanced at Vera, then back at Marcus. "You are not welcome here, you know that." "I know what I was told," Marcus said. "But I am beginning to think I was told lies." A ripple of unease went through the room. One of the other men stood up, an older craftsman with graying hair and calloused hands. "What are you saying, boy?" he asked. "I am saying I want to know the truth about what happened to Thomas Miller," Marcus said clearly. "And I want to know why Harold Finch was so quick to blame me without a proper investigation." The older man frowned. "There was an investigation. Was there? Or did Harold simply declare me guilty and expel me before anyone could ask questions?" The men exchanged glances. Vera could see doubt beginning to creep into their expressions. "Who are you?" the older man asked, turning to Vera. "I am Vera Grimfoot. Marcus is working for me. And I believe he was wrongly accused. You are an orc." "I am. Does that change the facts?" The older man smiled faintly. "I suppose not. Sit, both of you. Harold will be back within the hour. You can ask your questions then." They sat. The men returned to their conversation, but Vera could feel their eyes on her, and Marcus could sense the tension in the room. After what felt like an eternity, the door opened, and a man in fine clothes stepped inside. He was middle-aged, with a neatly trimmed beard and sharp eyes. He stopped when he saw Marcus. "Well," Harold Finch said, "this is unexpected." Marcus stood. "I need to speak with you." "I have nothing to say to you, Brennan. You were expelled from this guild. You have no business here." "I have every business here," Marcus said. "You accused me of negligence. You blamed me for Thomas Miller's death. But you never investigated properly. You never checked the beams that failed. You never asked the questions that needed asking." Harold's face darkened. "I did what was necessary to protect this guild and Thomas's family." "You did what was convenient," Marcus shot back. "And I think you know the truth. I think you know I was not responsible." "You dare accuse me?" Harold stepped forward. "I am the guild master. My word is law here." "Your word is not law," the older craftsman said, standing. "The guild charter requires a proper investigation before any member can be expelled. Did you conduct one, Harold?" Harold turned to him, his expression furious. "Of course I did." "Did you?" The older man crossed his arms. "Because I remember you calling that vote less than a day after the accident. I remember you saying we needed to act quickly, but I do not remember seeing any report, any evidence, any testimony from the other workers on site." Harold opened his mouth, closed it. "I was on that site," another man said, standing. "I was there when the beams gave way. I told Harold the morning of the accident that those beams looked rotten, that they should be replaced before anyone worked on that section. He told me to mind my own business and keep working." The room went very still. "You told him," Marcus said quietly. The man nodded. "I did. And when Thomas fell, I thought surely Harold would admit his mistake, but instead he blamed you, said you had been in charge of checking the structure. I wanted to speak up, but Harold made it clear that anyone who contradicted his version would be expelled as well. Lies, Harold said, but his voice lacked conviction. Are they? The older craftsman turned to the rest of the room. Who else saw those beams? Who else knew they were rotten? Slowly, 3 more men raised their hands. Harold looked around the room, his face pale. You cannot do this. I am the guild master. You were the guild master, the older craftsman said, but you let an innocent man take the blame for your negligence. You destroyed his reputation and his livelihood to protect yourself. That is not leadership. That is cowardice. Harold looked as though he might argue further, but something in the faces around him seemed to drain the fight from him. He turned and walked out without another word. The older craftsman turned to Marcus. I am sorry, he said. We should have spoken up sooner. We should have fought for you. Marcus shook his head slowly. You were afraid. I understand that, but thank you for speaking up now. What will you do? The man asked. Marcus looked at Vera. She met his eyes and saw the question there. He will come back with me, Vera said. He has a roof to finish. The older craftsman smiled. Then let me give you back what Harold took from you. He walked to the wall and took down a leather case. Inside was a journeyman's certification, Marcus's name inscribed on the parchment. This is yours. It always was. Marcus took the case with trembling hands. Thank you. They left the guild hall together, walking back to the cart in silence. When they were alone, Marcus stopped and turned to Vera. You did that, he said. You made me come here. You made me face this. You faced it, Vera corrected. I just gave you a push. Marcus laughed, a sound of pure relief. A push. You dragged me here and refused to let me give up. Is that so bad? No. He stepped closer, and suddenly they were standing very close, close enough that Vera could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. No, it is not bad at all. For a moment, Vera thought he might kiss her. For a moment she wanted him to, but he stepped back, his face flushing. We should get back. I have a roof to finish. They returned to the homestead 3 days later. The first frost was only a week away now, and Marcus threw himself into the work with renewed energy. He worked from dawn until well past dusk, and Vera often had to force him to stop and eat. But she did not mind. She could see the change in him, the way the weight of guilt had lifted from his shoulders. He whistled while he worked now, and sometimes he even smiled at her, a real smile that made her heart beat faster. On the day of the first frost, Marcus climbed down from the roof just as the sun was setting. He stood in the yard, looking up at the completed work, and Vera came to stand beside him. It is done, he said. The roof was beautiful. Every shingle perfectly aligned, every seam tight and secure. It would last for decades, a testament to his skill. You did good work, Vera said. I did my best. That evening the clan gathered once more. Greta stood in the center of the circle and Marcus stood beside Vera, his journeyman's certification in hand. Marcus Brennan, Greta said. You have completed the roof as required. You have also cleared your name and proven your skill. Do you still wish to marry Vera Grimfoot? Marcus turned to Vera. I do, he said, if she will have me. Vera felt her heart swell. I will, Greta smiled. Then by the laws of the Grimfoot clan I declare you worthy. You may marry. The clan erupted into cheers. Even Vera's mother, standing at the back of the crowd, looked grudgingly pleased. The wedding took place 3 weeks later, a simple ceremony held in the yard of the cottage. Marcus wore his best clothes, and Vera wore a dress of deep green that matched her skin. They spoke their vows before the clan, promising to love and support each other, to build a life together. And when the ceremony was over, Greta led them up to the roof for the ridge blessing, a clan tradition. They stood together at the peak, looking out over the valley as the sun set, and Greta poured water over the ridge beam, blessing the home and the union. "May this roof shelter you," Greta said. "May this home hold you. May your love endure as long as these beams stand strong." Vera reached for Marcus's hand, and he took it, his fingers warm and solid around hers. "We did it," she whispered. "We did," Marcus agreed. Life settled into a new rhythm after the wedding. Marcus moved into the cottage, and together they made it a true home. He built new shelves and repaired the old furniture. She expanded the garden and added a second chicken coop. They worked side by side, and in the evenings they sat on the porch and watched the stars. The clan slowly accepted Marcus. He helped repair roofs on other homesteads, always refusing payment from clan members, saying he was family now. He learned their customs and their language. He earned their respect not through grand gestures but through steady, quiet competence. Vera's mother took the longest to come around, but even she softened eventually. One evening she appeared at the cottage with a basket of bread and a grudging smile. "You chose well," she admitted. "He is a good man." "I know," Vera said. Winter came, and the cottage stayed warm and dry beneath the roof Marcus had built. Spring followed, and Vera discovered she was pregnant. Marcus was overjoyed, though also terrified, and he spent weeks building a cradle and fretting over every detail. Their daughter was born in late summer, a healthy baby girl with green skin and her father's brown eyes. They named her Sarah, and she was the delight of both the clan and her parents. 2 years later, a second daughter arrived, this one with Marcus's coloring but Vera's pointed ears. They named her Zara, and she was louder and more energetic than her older sister. Life was not always easy. There were seasons when the crops failed, winters when sickness came to the valley. There were moments of grief when elders passed and moments of worry when clan members were injured. But through it all, Vera and Marcus stood together. They had built something solid, something lasting, and it was more than just the roof over their heads. One evening, many years after that first frost, Vera stood on the porch and watched Marcus play with their daughters in the yard. Sarah was teaching Zara how to climb a tree, and Marcus was standing below, ready to catch them if they fell. Greta appeared at her side, moving quietly for an elder. "You were right," Greta said. "About what?" Vera asked. "About choosing your own husband, about trusting your instincts, about him." Vera smiled. "I know. The clan is stronger for having him. You were wise." "I was lucky," Vera corrected. "Perhaps both." Marcus looked up from the yard and waved. Vera waved back, her heart full. "Yes," she said, "perhaps both." The years rolled on, and the cottage stood strong beneath the roof Marcus had built. Sarah grew into a skilled craftswoman, learning carpentry from her father. Zara became a hunter, roaming the valley with a bow her mother had made for her. They brought home partners of their own, and the family grew larger still. Marcus's hair turned gray at the temples, and Vera's skin grew lined with age. But they still sat together on the porch in the evenings, still watched the stars come out, still held hands like they had on their wedding day. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, Marcus turned to Vera. "You remember the day you pointed at me on that roof?" he asked. "Of course," Vera said. "How could I forget?" "I thought you had lost your mind," Marcus admitted. "I was just a roofer, a disgraced one at that. And you chose me in front of your entire clan." "I chose the man who treated me with respect," Vera said. "The man who did good work and cared about getting things right. The man I had been watching for weeks and falling for without even realizing it." "I fell for you too," Marcus said. "Somewhere between the first cup of tea and the 100th, I looked down from that roof and realized I did not want to work anywhere else. I wanted to stay right there, fixing your roof, just so I could see you every day." Vera leaned her head on his shoulder. "I am glad I picked you. So am I." They sat in comfortable silence as the last light faded from the sky. Inside the cottage, they could hear the sounds of their grandchildren playing, watched by their daughters. The roof above them was solid and strong, just as Marcus had built it all those years ago. And Vera thought about that day in the gathering circle, when she had looked at a line of suitors and known that none of them were right. When she had turned and pointed at a human man with a hammer in his hand and a weight of guilt on his shoulders, she had chosen him, and he had chosen her back. And together they had built something more lasting than any roof, more solid than any beam. They had built a home, a family, a life, and it was good. The cottage stood at the edge of the valley, nestled among the fields and forests of the clan lands. The roof that Marcus had repaired still held strong decades later, a testament to his skill and care. The home beneath it was filled with love and laughter, with memories and traditions, with the lives of two people who had found each other against all odds. Vera Grimfoot had picked her own husband. She had pointed at the man fixing her roof and declared him worthy before her entire clan. And she had been right. Marcus Brennan had proven himself not through grand gestures or heroic deeds, but through steady work, honest dealing, and a love that grew deeper with every passing year. They had faced prejudice and doubt, guilt and fear. They had overcome accusations and clan expectations. They had built a bridge between two peoples and shown that love could cross any divide. And in the end, it was simple. She had chosen him. He had chosen her. And they had chosen to build a life together, one day at a time, one shingle at a time, until they had something unshakable. As the stars came out above the valley, and the lights in the cottage windows glowed warm against the darkness, Vera and Marcus sat together on the porch they had shared for so many years. Their hands were still clasped, their hearts still bound. The roof above them stood strong, blessed by the clan and built by love, and beneath it they were home,